Welcome back to day 3 of Hack Asia Week. Now we will move on to our second panel discussion on the road to corporate startup collaboration. Join us to dispel some myths about the rise of corporate startup collaboration. In this session, we will discuss about the corporate startup collaboration from a startup's perspective. Learn from our startup community as they share insights about what corporations and startups should expect from their partnerships on innovation projects, and how we can raise the odds of lasting mutual benefits when large and small companies team up. For our first speaker, we have Brandon Ng, who is the co-founder and CEO of Amped Energy, a company driven by its vision of creating emission-free future for construction. Amped Energy powered the use of energy storage upstream is with its rare product, the Entertainer. Crystal is the co-founder of CEO of Pickup, a logistics startup aiming to reduce logistics and empower businesses to scale with transparent customer-centric service and technology. And lastly, we have Peter Chan, which is the head of growth at Rare Elements, an alternative data financial intelligence solution with core technology in multi-language, native natural language processing, and machine learning. Rare Elements is a winner of Hack Asia 2020. This session will be moderated by Anne O'Riordan, who is the Jardine Matheson Group Director of Digital. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin, and welcome to everybody. We're very, very excited to have a fantastic panel here with us today. Hopefully for all of you who are online, this is a chance to see and ask people who have really been there, done that, and been in the startup community, probably even way back into their student dreams, dreamt of being entrepreneurs, and have made it happen. What I want to get out of this session is the real questions, which are, what was it really like working with corporates, and what would you say? What works well? What doesn't work well? So all of you who are online, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go along. But I want to start with these 3 incredible entrepreneurs, and just a brief. I know Justin did a great job introducing you, but I think our people probably are fascinated about who you are and how you got to where you are. So if you wouldn't mind just giving a very brief overview of the company, just the name and whatever else, but more about you. How did you start? Where did you start? Where were you even 10 years ago, and how did you get to where you are today? So I'm going to start with Crystal, if that's okay. Ladies first.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. So maybe I will start with introducing Pickup, and then I'll talk about a little bit of like why Pickup and how it got started. So Pickup is an asset-light logistic tech platform. We focus a lot on the data and optimization technology. We currently run in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan. What we focus on is to serve enterprise, SMEs, and also consumer clients, help them optimize logistics. And what we do is to connect fragmented parts of the supply chain resources, whether it is crowdsourcing a driver, a walker, or even space in the city, just to do temporary storages. We connect all these resources together and try to optimize cost and without sacrificing the speed, so that we give a better experience. A little bit of background about myself. I was a software engineer by training, a short stint in investment banking before embarking my entrepreneur career. I was in a fintech company, and then I went back to Hong Kong in 2014. I joined Uber. I was an early employee, enabling the platform and also managing the ecosystem. I realized a lot of people are using the wrong product for logistics. It's very expensive, it's point to point, it's not efficient. So that's how I started Pickup in 2017 with a goal to optimize and make sure we can cost control, we can make it more efficient, we can also utilize a lot more of these freelancing or even idle resources to make logistics a bit more sustainable.
Excellent. Well done. Fantastic. Okay, Brandon, how about you? What's your story?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me today. So my name is Brandon. I'm one of the founders of Amped Energy. Amped Energy exists to electrify the construction industry in pursuit of our vision of an emission-free future for construction. And the reason why I think everyone should care about this is because construction contributes to 11% of global carbon emissions.
Amazing.
Absolutely massive. And we haven't really, the world hasn't really done a lot to decarbonize construction over the past past decades. So we saw a potential to do that, and that's kind of what we focus on. As a company today, we operate in Hong Kong and Singapore, and we are now starting to expand internationally as well. So how I ended up starting down this journey was, I'm trained and educated as an engineer, and I had a short stint in banking as well. It's not a requisite, by the way. It's not a requirement to get into what we do. And I realized that I was really actually missing that connection to having a positive impact in society, be as an engineer. And I really wanted to find a way back into engineering, and I saw entrepreneurship as a way to do that. And we started Amped Energy because we saw that energy storage, big batteries, this is in the early 2010s, were going to be transformative for how we use energy globally. But when we started the company, we didn't know what problems we were going to address. We didn't know what products we were going to make, which customers we were going to serve, how we're going to build a business around this. It was all to be figured out, but we started the company nonetheless. So not knowing where you're going is a perfectly normal starting point for starting a company.
That's quite amazing. We have to come back to that. It sounds like madness, but I'm fascinated to find out. Okay, Peter, what about you?
Awesome. Thank you both of the amazing introductions. So hello everybody, I'm Peter. So a bit about Rare Elements. So it was started in about 2019 with a team of 4 people, which we met during our stint at Microsoft. We ended up in different places and realized that there's just so much data out there. And there's also a lot of tools out there, but there's not too many insights. Whether it is in the financial industry or it is in the retail industry, there may be a lot of complex dashboards, complex solutions, but there's not anything that is really simple, intuitive, and impactful. And that's why we wanted to create something from the perspective from the industry. And with that, we have introduced 2 products, one in the financial services industry and one in the retail industry, focusing on leveraging technology to help predict trends in order to optimize performances in the respective industry. I'd happily to go into that a little bit more later. A bit about myself. So I actually started got to know my passion in technology by working with Crystal at Uber during 2014, and then as my internship, and gradually moved on to Microsoft and Facebook internationally. Ultimately, I landed in private equity, which coincidentally is also in the financial services industry, working on venture development. At that point, I got into a lot of opportunities to work with both the corporate side and a lot of the technology players. So we've been fascinated by the passion that entrepreneurs have. So once I had that opportunity, we decided to start something.
Fantastic. All right, so I see a trend here, right? So you have to be sort of an engineer or a techie in some sort of way. You have to do a stint in banking, and maybe that's only because you're all from Hong Kong. But then you move on to really finding an area, a niche that you're all passionate about, which I love. I absolutely love the fact that you did this because you spotted something in the market and said, it shouldn't work this way. Let's find a better solution. All right, so now, which of you has the oldest company? I think you were 2015.
We've been around since 2015.
2017.
And you are 2018? When did Rare Elements start?
We started in 2019.
2019. All right, we'll go to the earliest then. All right, Brandon, take me back to 2015. What happened? Did you move into the science park? How did you get to where you are? How did it happen?
So we just started with a thesis that was energy storage was going to be transformative, and we felt like we could play a role in this. And like I said, we really, typical clueless entrepreneurs, didn't know what we didn't know. But that naivety, I would say, was, because I think if we knew how difficult it was, we probably wouldn't have done it. We started off in the science park here in Hong Kong, which gave us sort of a soft landing into this universe. And we tried a couple of things in the early years of the business. So we tried building batteries for hospitals, for data centers, for telecommunications. But the business just wasn't scaling and growing as we had hoped. An Excel model will always show incredible growth when you just put the right numbers in there. So don't be fooled by it. what happened at the end of 2017 was I was at a conference not too dissimilar from this, and I actually ran into one of the executives from Gammon Construction, a company under Jardines. And he, I was pitching at the event, and he was at the event, and he simply, at the end of the event, just asked over a conversation whether we thought it was possible to power up an entire construction project, not with diesel, which is noisy, polluting, expensive. Diesel equipment requires a lot of maintenance. It tends to catch fire from time to time. There's a lot of issues with diesel. And he said, could we use big batteries to power up our construction projects instead? At that point in time, we had no idea if we could, but we said we'd take a look. So all through 2017, 2018, we spent a lot of time with Gammon really trying to figure out how we could use batteries in some way, shape, or form to power up a construction project. And toward the end of 2018, lots of back and forth thing. We realized not only was it possible, we realized that the economics made a lot of sense. It addressed a lot of the operational issues that you have with the use of diesel equipment in construction. And at that point in time, no one was really trying to do this anywhere in the world, not in the way that we were trying to do, at least. So Gammon engaged us to build the first entertainers. That's the name of the product, Energy Container Entertainer. It started off as a joke, and it kind of stuck. So that's why it's called an entertainer. Someone thought they were being funny. And we said, give us a year, and we'd get it delivered to you. This is end of 2019. We'd get it delivered to you at the end of 2019. August 2019, we said. It took us a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but Gammon understood this was new, this was pioneering. So we actually ended up delivering the very first entertainer to Gammon in October 2019. And we didn't know if it was going to work because no one had done this anywhere in the world.
That's amazing.
And it worked brilliantly. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, fantastic story. And we'll come back to your story with Gammon later as to how did that work, etc. But truly, just great a series of determination, happenstance, creativity, and determination.
Luck.
Sounds like a lot of determination, though. Yes. All right, now Crystal, you're next. Take us back to, I don't know, were you sitting at a desk in Uber saying, I just don't want this to work like this?
It was end of 2016 when I noticed a lot of, I won't say abuse, but people just use car rides for different purposes. So sending flowers, sending packages, doing all sorts of things, and paying a hefty premium on it. And then we already know there are other platforms out there, and the prices is 2x, 3x of what a traditional courier would charge. So we started thinking about why is there such a big gap? Little traditional players, they're doing centralized handling, like milk runs, everything going back to a warehouse and redistributed. And then we start thinking well, are there any leeway we can do it dynamically or more on demand? Or can we keep shortening the delivery time? Is there a way to do that? So I realized there's no product market fit if I stayed in Uber and tried to use that product to get that kind of marketplace going. So that's how Pickup started. And we experimented it in the very beginning, saying that, okay, let's say it's not like a next day delivery. It's also not a 1 hour delivery. What if we say it's a 4 hours delivery in the middle, but it's a fraction of the price? So are people willing to pay a little bit more for a quicker turnaround? And that's how we started experimenting the optimization of time and cost with different types of vehicles and warehouses. So we find traction, and I think it's running pretty well in Hong Kong. So that's how we started thinking about, the next high density city that we can experiment, which is Singapore. And then that's how we embarked this journey of opening different cities in Asia.
So the keys that are different are, one, your algorithms do optimization point to point. Is that correct?
We do not handle everything point to point. So we run a hybrid to the extent we can, understanding the time required. We break up different legs of these parcels, and then we find crowdsourced spaces in the city to temporary warehouse them for like half an hour or to an hour so that they can run another batching algorithm so that one person is handling not just one order, but we can try to batch them with 3 or 4 to be delivered in a neighborhood. So it's definitely more efficient, not just in terms of the throughput, but also in terms of earnings to the person who's delivering. Because if you don't want to raise the prices, but you also want to make sure this person is earning enough, so that means you need to make sure he or she is taking on enough orders and being able to do it very quickly in the neighborhood.
And you crowdsource the drop-off points. So what's this like? You have a spare bedroom in your house, and what happens? How does this happen?
Yeah, we started working with some small places in the industrial area. They allow people to do self pickup of orders, and then we started working with coffee shop where they have spare locker rooms, and then we also started working with 7-Eleven, so they have multiple drop offs. We also started working with. Some other logistics companies. We share warehouses, so all sorts of partnership. Like we'll strike and we'll try to get it up and running. The goal here is really to give people enough options, because the more points you have, the more efficient and or the shorter the last mile it would be.
Absolutely. And what percentage of your orders are delivered by people walking versus people driving or?
It's a very big percentage of people walking in Hong Kong. You'll be amazed. We have 80% walkers.
Amazing, amazing. So it's sustainable as well.
Sustainable and also, no carbon emission. I would say is the best way of delivering when your neighbors or someone you know is actually handling parcels in that neighborhood.
Absolutely. Because somebody cares, which is fantastic. Great story. I mean, just great the way you have applied logic to each point of the problem and said it doesn't have to work the way we've all been traditionally brought up to know that logistics works or thought we knew. Fantastic story. Okay, Peter, over to you.
Awesome. So Rare Elements was started in 2019 and now evolved into having 2 products, both focused on alternative data, which are data that don't find in traditional sources such as Bloomberg, Reuters. Examples can be geospatial data, satellite data, or social media data. And our 2 products, one focusing on financial services, which is analyzing these data to help predict the performances, the movements of cryptocurrency and NFTs. On our retail product, we scrape social media data in order to predict retail trends, look at emerging brands and analyzing the potential benefits that these brands can bring across different perspectives. Kind of where it started was it's very similar, where it started with a problem and some pain points that we all personally have. When I was working at Facebook, I was working with a lot of Facebook marketing partners and kind of connecting these solutions with different companies, but a lot of the feedback often is this solution is too complex. It's a lot of visual driven elements. It can be very fancy graphs, but does it really impact the business that I'm currently looking at? So for example, let's say if you are looking for emerging brands, do you really need a list of 1,000 brands without a lot of analysis, or do you need a recommendation of 10 brands where you have much deeper depth of analysis? So we kind of started from there and we tried our hands on applying this technology across different industries, with financial services, with I think more on the marketing space, even on the operation space with preventive maintenance as well. And we kind of took the approach of, we don't know too much, so let's take on some projects and see what sticks. And ultimately, it was these 2 products that really, really stuck. And we continue to grow the team. And currently, we have presence across myself personally, be based in Germany, and a team member based in the UK, and of course, a core team in Hong Kong as well. So it has been an incredible journey and continuously to iterate with this product. And as you can imagine, we're in the financial services and retail space. We've worked with a lot of big companies and conglomerates. So it was also a very, very exciting experience to start from the beginning, actually.
Fantastic. So remind me, Peter. How many employees are there now, and how many customers do you have?
Currently, we are having about 5 to 6 of our team members with different freelancers helping out as well. In terms of customers, we have a range of, more of our SMB customers, but we also have quite of a few bigger corporate customers, which we focuses on kind of really embedding our solutions across different of the departments or coverage. Imagine a capital markets team using our solution in terms of in our Scandium solution, which is our financial services solution. We can be applying it for different capital markets team across financial products, across geographies. And this is kind of how we are approaching with our bigger corporates clients.
Awesome. Okay, similar question for you guys now. What stage are you at? How many people do you have? What stage are you at in your evolution?
Okay. We now have 150 people
Wow.
across 5 cities. We recently finished our Series B financing, where Jardines led the round. So we're extremely privileged that we're now in full execution mode to deepen our presence in Asia. And what we're trying to do is really to build up more of these spaces, careers, and make sure that we can engage with more and more enterprise clients just to get this quick commerce and omni-channel retailing going.
Right, amazing. So your 150 people includes your walkers and your...
Oh, that
No.
doesn't include
That's what I was wondering.
all the freelancers and all the companies who signed up with us. Right now, we serve about 24,000 merchants and over 100,000 freelancers.
Wow.
Yep, and then I think we run over 200 of these satellites across the cities. That means there will be 1 or 2 in your neighborhood, but we don't have signboards and stuff, so people probably don't see it. And even our walkers, they don't run around with our shirts.
Right.
Sometimes they choose to be discreet.
Interesting. So of your 150 people, how many are technology people?
About 40 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still. We would hope for this percentage to go up a little bit, but in terms of engineering talent, it's been pretty competitive.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, the market's hot at the moment for sure. And Brendan, how about you? Shape and size now and stage.
We're about 48. We're about 48 people. We are 48 people right now. We just raised our Series A just a little under 6 months ago, which was led by 2 VCs in the prop tech, and they invest in the intersection between property, technology, and sustainability. We currently operate across Hong Kong and Singapore, and today Amped Energy powers up over 70 construction projects right
Amazing.
now, with 30 construction companies or property developers all over Hong Kong and Singapore. The bulk of our business today exists in Hong Kong, but Singapore just started going live about 4 months ago, and we're hoping for very exciting things in Hong Kong and also in Singapore through this year, and also in a few other markets as well toward the tail end of 2022.
It's just a great story. It's great. All of you have amazing stories in such a short period of time. Now, I want to come back to you started in the science park, and I just want to hear from you. How did that help? Did it help? I mean, I just spoke to the CEO at the Science Park last week, and he seemed to have almost 1,000 startups in there now, which is phenomenal growth in the last number of years. So just talk to us about that experience. Was that a great place to start? How did it work?
I think you have to look for... So for us, it was. So for us, it gave us... We were new to Hong Kong. I'm not from Hong Kong, so I was new to Hong Kong, and having the Science Park as a soft landing into the Hong Kong ecosystem, I benefited from that tremendously, because that gave us a launch pad to jump off from. But there are companies for whom the Science Park works brilliantly, and there are companies that the Science Park may not necessarily make so much sense for you. And you have to look at what type of a company you are. The Science Park tends to look for companies that have a heavy engineering or science content. Yeah. Typically, they produce something physical, not always, but typically. there's some physical thing at the end, be that a drug or a product, or a technology of some kind, and there are expectations that you're going to be investing in that. So if you are a e-commerce company, maybe the science park might not be the right place for you. Maybe it might be. You have to look at your individual circumstances. So just look at your company.
Right. And you were there for 3 years?
We were there for 3 years as an incubatee, and I think we were there for another 2 years on top of that as a tenant.
Okay.
Oh, 3 years on top of that as a tenant as well.
Wow. Amazing. And again, Crystal, where did you start? Did you just...
We started, well, I had angel investors and myself putting in some money to pick up. We were also pretty lucky to be one of the incubatees at Cyberport, even though we didn't work, well, we did not have an office there. It was too remote for a logistics company, unfortunately. But they did provide other types of support. So for example, if you, some investors introduction, or trying to cross-refer you to other startups, or even if you want to work with enterprises, like they will try to find like key decision makers and then make an introduction for you. So I think it's been pretty helpful for us just to speed up the conversion cycle and also speed up the fundraising activities as well.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting to understand what kind of help you need. And of course, you're different. If you're producing a product, you do need an engineering environment. You might even need some laboratories and all of that. And having that so that you don't have to pay for all of that equipment up front is super helpful. Peter, your experience, like where did you guys physically start? I mean, you now are between Germany and France, so how did this all work?
So I actually only recently moved to Europe about half a year ago, but we all started in Hong Kong, and we are also a part of the Cyberport incubation program. Kind of echoing what Crystal said, I think on top of that, the ecosystem is incredibly helpful. We're in a data field, and a big part of our product is fintech. It's a very competitive and fast market. So other than kind of on the client side, the startup ecosystem is a very good way for you to scale your product and bring your product much quicker to the market, rather than developing certain solutions in-house. Strategic partnerships with some of the other players across the Cyberport ecosystem is a great way just to go to market when you're also still kind of testing out some of your features. So that has been incredibly helpful. We're actually about to finish our incubation with them, and we are currently raising our seed funding, which is very, very exciting.
Very wonderful, wonderful. All right, so now different points at which you all kind of got to interact with Jardine. So, Peter, I'm going to start with you because you were a Hack Asia winner, and I know again we've got a lot of people in the audience today. They're participating in this hackathon. Talk us through it all, because it must have felt a bit weird to have a series of corporates come out and say, we want your help to solve this problem and we're serious about it. Can you come in and have a chat with us? Can we give you these mentors? Can we help you through the process? Now, the one you did was a 36-hour straight-up marathon, so it was it was intense, as I recall, and people sleeping overnight in one of the Hong Kong Land facilities in Central. But talk to us about that and what it felt like, and then what happened afterwards when you won. So, first of all, why did you participate? Then, as you went through the process, what did it feel like? And then, what happened afterwards?
Definitely. I think it's very clear the goal of joining Hack Asia is very rare to have such an opportunity to work with corporations where it has so much coverage across industries and have such a warm introductions of your solution to a wide spectrum of departments and even people outside of Jardines as well. So the exposure and the potential to work with Jardines are definitely the top two reasons. It was an intense competition. We did not sleep at the facility because we can't do it anymore. The age doesn't allow it anymore. But it was really good. And following the competition, we begin the process of really scoping the problem, defining the problem here. A lot of the key questions that you get during Hack Asia are often much simplified for competition reasons. So when we approached of working with the team, we really worked on refining the scope of the question and the details of the question. The questions that we got is how do we incorporate external customer insight to help make decisions to improve retail performances. So scoping meaning that what potential retail projects can we start on? What markets of customer do we firstly want to look at? What platforms do you guys would like to prioritize? So really understanding the problem and talking to different stakeholders, whether it is decision makers or funding individuals, innovations teams, operators, mapping out the stakeholders, and we really got a solid start as to how we should approach it. And then we started a POC and ultimately converted into Hong Kong Land converted into a customer's about.
That's amazing, and yeah, I think that's what it takes is a couple of iterations, right, to get to what are we actually trying to solve for here. Now, I think the rest of you also had similar experiences. Brandon, we know you guys met at a conference, but yeah, talk us through the following year where you trolled all over construction sites in Hong Kong trying to figure out how this thing worked. Because you didn't do batteries for construction prior to this. You had done them for hospitals and various other places, right? So you had to learn the construction industry.
That's correct. I don't come from the world of construction, so we kind of stumbled into it, if anything. So like you mentioned, I met one of the executives from Gammon Construction at a conference, not too dissimilar from this type of a conference, and I think what that gave us was an opportunity to engage. It gave us an opportunity to engage with Gammon Jardines through a champion, someone that believed in an idea, and because I don't come from a world of construction, we had to learn about construction. So all through 2018, pretty much the entire year, we spent a lot of time with Gammon at pretty much all their construction projects that they had at that point in time, trying to understand power and energy in the context of construction. And we felt that if we understood it, we could at least we could figure out if it was possible to create a product or not. Maybe it wasn't, right? And that was perfectly fine. We would have learned a thing or two about construction. But maybe it was possible. You don't know until you actually try. So what we had was an opportunity to try. And we took that opportunity. And through that year, we realized, like I mentioned, we realized pretty much at the end of that year, it was in fact possible to power up construction with these great big batteries, the size of a shipping container, and that it would actually lead to substantial benefits for Gammon initially, but it turned out actually for the wider construction industry as well, here in Hong Kong and Singapore. So so at the end of 2019, just as we were delivering the very first entertainer for Gammon, we decided to pivot. A very common term that you'll hear in a startup company. We decided to pivot. We decided to drop everything that we were doing prior to this product. So we stopped everything on the hospitals, on the data centers, on the telco side, and we decided to go all in on construction and focus on. And we changed our vision. Our vision changed into let's try to create an emission-free future for construction. That's kind of our North Star that tells us what we need to do and who we need to be working with and what we need to create.
It's just fantastic. I mean, it's true innovation. You really didn't know whether this thing was going to work or not. I just think it's an amazing story. And now you actually power these massive cranes. I've seen it in action myself, and your optimization of the electricity utilization is truly astounding. I've always wondered, how did you design for things like, snakes and things going into your machine?
Have small holes.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, truly, because you're really out there in the elements. In
the middle of a construction site where rocks fly, stuff falls, cement, gets flung across everywhere. That is the environment that we operate in. But I find that incredibly exciting.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
It's amazing because it's almost every parameter you can possibly think of can and will happen. So
100%.
Great. All right, Crystal. from your perspective, your interaction. You were. It's been a recent interaction with Jardine, so
Yes. We started. We started thinking about like doing food deliveries. I think in the early 2019, and then we had the privilege to work with some food deliveries, just doing some quick service restaurants, and then we start seeing, hey, the average distance traveled is so short, and then we start thinking about, oh, can you imagine just among the management, we're like, can you imagine if not just the quick service restaurants, all this, but what if like groceries? What if like other daily necessities? Like if it's all like under the Jardines umbrella, what if they are all on the same platform? Can you imagine how much density or how much throughput it would generate? And I think it was a coincidence. It was 2020. It was COVID, and then I was just talking to someone about this micro fulfillment strategy and high density deliveries, and then they were like, oh, maybe you should talk to Jardines. I think they are very serious about some of these digital innovation and making a move. So I was not that confident back then. In the first meeting, I was of the assumptions that it may take a very, very long time. But I was quite surprised from the first meeting to having a POC. I still remember the first time when I talked to them, like, oh, how much time do we need for an API integration? We've had experiences with other enterprises where it would take 6 months. So we were not that optimistic, but it was done in 2 months. So I was so surprised, and things just start rolling and kicking in immediately, even so much, like so fast, even to our surprise that, oh my God, do we have enough manpower handling this? Because this is massive. So I think it has been a very, it's an exciting ride. I would say like a roller coaster ride. Of course, not all the time like smooth, because when we work with larger companies, there are a lot of decision makers and stakeholders. So there's a lot more communications involved. But I think what's more rewarding is that because we are really solving problems, like we're communicating. So it's not so much on like a consumer-driven marketplace that, okay, just throw promo codes and discount codes, make sure everyone comes in free ride, and then next day they're off like on some other platform. So I think we identify difficult challenges, operational problems, and we're really solving it. That makes the thing more rewarding than ever.
fantastic story, really. Yeah, it probably was right place, right time, with the right solution, and everybody had a need, so we needed to get on with it. I have lots more questions, but I just want to check, Justin, are there questions coming in from the floor? Okay, let's give the audience a couple of.
Hi. Okay, cool. We have some questions from the audience. The first question is for all the panelists, what is your greatest security challenge? What does security mean for you? Is it in data? Is it in, what is security? What's your greatest security challenge?
Crystal's going to start.
Maybe I'll go first. So I think when it comes to logistics and us running a platform, there are 2 layers of security. There's the cybersecurity, meaning whether someone can hack the system, which I believe is not the biggest problem, because we've been we run everything on cloud and things are pretty much encrypted. The security of packages is something that we have a very close eye on, because we are still leveraging on freelancers. So we do have real-time tracking, POD. People take photos. We ask them to take a photo with the door number, e-signature, and if someone is not taking the parcel, can you identify who's taking care of it? Is it like a door guard, or is it like a receptionist? So I think this level of security is the one that we keep a very close eye on. We even have like a channel to spot check the security by taking a certain percentage of photos and just eyeball it whether something looks off, which serves to be pretty interesting data analytics as well. Like So for the past week, when we're eyeballing these photos, we see a lot of tissue paper and rice deliveries. So apparently, I think Hong Kong is stocking up.
Again.
Yeah, but these are things that we do take precaution and just to make sure, like, we don't have a lost package. Yeah.
We have so many questions. Maybe we'll do one question and maybe one of the panelists can pick it up. So we have a question here from David Walker. How do you balance being as innovative and creative as possible with staying focused on key goals? So maybe if one panelist wants to take that question.
I 100% believe in focus, and that is why we decided to pivot and focus entirely on construction. We dropped everything that we were doing because it's for us. It was we as entrepreneurs we couldn't resist jumping on a big problem, and I say construction contributes to 11% of the world's emissions. That's one heck of a problem, and we saw a path to making an impact and making a dent in that. So once we kind of landed on this, we knew that this could take us far. Just focusing on this one thing, and so we at this point in time, we're really focused on construction. There are the problem with the industry that we're in is there are more opportunities in energy storage than a single company could possibly fulfill. So it's a question of not what you say yes to, but what you actually say no to. So you got to be able to say no to a lot of things, but yes to one thing that you truly believe in and truly can get behind and truly, dedicate the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who knows, right, of your life to. And you got to be okay with that.
I just actually want to quickly jump in here. I think Brandon raised a great point about mentality, but I think I come from a more practical perspective where in order to make sure that you're really ruthlessly prioritizing, we found OKRs and KPI structures very, very important. There can be a lot of problems that you can be solving, but you need to solve the single most important problem. And a big part of that is mentality, but you need to make sure that your company's goals and the things that you're tracking are linked to that problem that you're actually solving at. So you cannot be, let's say if onboarding flow is the biggest problem, your OKRs cannot be generating leads. So making sure that the company's organizational structure and how the goaling of each team member is aligned to the mentality, I personally find very, very important and very helpful as well.
And we have a similar question from Ankit, who wants to know, how do you define the point when which you need to stop pushing and change your strategy in a startup setting?
That's a good question.
Sounds like it's for me.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Look, the business that we were trying to build prior to actually running into construction just wasn't scaling and wasn't growing. And you know it, right? Like when you have product market fit, and you know when you don't, right? When it's a hard sell, and no matter how hard, whatever kind of resources you're trying to pour into marketing and selling, it's just not. It doesn't solve a problem. It doesn't resonate strong enough with people that they go, I need that. Whereas when you have the right product market fit, it's you've got the right product market fit because people are coming to you for that solution, and they're lining up and they're queuing for that solution. So. It's to a certain extent just going out there, trying a whole lot of things, trying that thing again and again and again, and seeing if there's a positive response or if there isn't one. And if there isn't one, there's nothing wrong with failing, right? Fail fast, make sure you do so quickly, and then move on to the next thing.
I'm curious. I just want to build on that question, though, and this is more learning for us as well. Is when we, Peter, for example, can give you access to the mentors, can give you access to the people who are hashing the problem. Does that cut down the time? Does that help you to focus in?
Actually, this is what a great question. It's actually, it can increase the scope of the problem, and it makes it even more complex, and it will be actually up to the core team for you to decide on what exactly is the first solution that you need to tackle. So I think Brandon mentioned a lot about customer discovery, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs do miss out on. They focus on their vision, but across the process, they really didn't talk to potential customers and ecosystem players to understand that. For example, while working with John Deans, the topic of analyzing YouTube videos and TikTok came up. And because we brought in operators and we went through the process of kind of exploring that solution, but stepping back, if you look at it, is that really a platform that you want to prioritize? What exactly is the objective of adding this platform as an analysis? How much resources do we need? How much, of that POC do we need to push back in order to incorporate this? So sometimes it can be very helpful in terms of nailing down the what exactly is the problem, but sometimes it can also be increasing the scope of problem because more people are involved, they have different KPIs, they want to see more things, they want to see more innovative things. So it really depends on the solution, but ultimately it is you as the company that you need to focus on what exactly is the business impact that your problem will help address, and that make that the one guiding principle that you use in order to make decisions.
Great.
Sure, thank you. And we have a few questions here, which I'll put together around the culture and the agility and kind of the mindset and spirit. Could you share a bit about, how did that kind of entrepreneur spirit translate into the work or the kind of the team or the operations, and how that might be something that our entrepreneurs can learn from?
Oh, for me. Okay. So we do have 9 core values or a certain culture within Pickup. I'm not going to list all of them, but I think what we focus a lot on is the team spirit, where people work together, and we are very we're very particular when we recruit engineers or even people in operations. We want them to have the curiosity. Whether it is just personal growth or career growth, they need to understand why and ask these questions. And then the third thing is that because we operate in such a competitive market, logistics is super competitive, so they need to have the grit and be okay with this David versus Goliath moment, like every single day. So I think these are things that we take it very seriously, but we also tell people we want them to have fun. So when they come to the office, no one tells them what to do. And so that's why if you're not someone who asks questions, or you're not someone who will ask why and figure things out, you will be in trouble. You'll be sitting at a desk and not knowing what to do, except for layers and layers of onboarding videos and trainings. So I think these are things that when you're in a startup, you definitely feel the difference versus working in a large corporate, like these kind of cultural values.
Hiring. I mean, you just got to be real. You got to make sure you're hiring correctly. My view. And we take at AMP we take a very different approach to hiring. We're not just looking for people that have a certain experience and then that's it, right? I mean, that would be a very traditional way of hiring. Yes, you bring in the experience, that's important, but maybe you don't, but you're willing to learn and you're really passionate about what we do as a company. That could also put you in a very strong position. I mean, we have 5 values in this company, and we one of them that is passionate. We're looking for people that are really passionate. So even if you don't have the perfect experience, but you're really passionate, you're a quick learner, you're going out there and you're trying to figure out ways to overcome. That's what will put you. What makes you very attractive to us. And that, for me, is key. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to build this company by yourself. So hiring the right people that are aligned in terms of their values, in terms of the vision, in terms of their attitude to solving the problem, that's really important.
Fantastic.
One quick little blurb I would like to add is, one little tip is also, don't over focus on the values that a lot of companies can potentially glorify. Is kind of one take that I will have, especially having worked with so many big American tech companies. Find the culture that really fits for your team, and oftentimes that starts with your initial core team. As you can see, for example, the remote first culture is really, really big now. Does that really make sense for your team, or certain policies or certain things? really make sure that this is truly something that fits within their industry, within your company, and is something that people like. Some people do like more structured guidance rather than something very, very open-ended, and depends on different seniorities as well. So try to understand what exactly is fits for you, and don't be kind of blinded by all of these kind of fancy or cultures or values out there that other companies adopt. I think it's a very, very important thing to remember.
Fantastic.
I think we can take one more question. We've got a question here from Julia who wants to know, under the fast-paced startup in Hong Kong City, how do you manage life balance under startup life and your real life?
Do you have a kid? I have a kid.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
So I got an I got an 8-month-old kid, right? So I really am juggling right now. Look, running a startup company, you're juggling 20 things anyway, right? So your personal life is just one more thing that you need to juggle, and that's life. As the number of balls that you need to juggle, I find as I get older, doesn't decrease; it actually increases over time. So you're gonna need to learn how to juggle, and it's an adaptation, and it's a lifelong lifelong process of adapting. You learn, you grow, you level up, you skill up, right? You pick up new skills, you expand your network, you find people that are better at certain things than you are at, and you bring them in and make sure that they do a better job than you ever possibly could at finance or product or engineering, what have you. And that allows you to focus on other things, be it other parts of the business, your personal life. You are going to be involved in the company. Don't expect to hire people and then just be at the golf course at 3 p.m. That's not going to happen. But it's a tightrope. You just got to learn how to balance both.
Well, maybe I'll add a little
Not a
bit
great
more
answer.
here.
What it is.
I don't have a kid, but I do have pets, and then I try to maintain work-life balance. I think I do treat startup and entrepreneur as like a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
So when you're doing a marathon, you pace yourself, and then you just need to know you it's almost like competing with your best time, and you just need to understand when to delegate, divide, and conquer. You can't do everything on your own. If it helps, I try to have one day out of a week that I stop looking at Slack. I tried, yeah, or not to turn on the computer.
But you need to know whether your
Yeah.
company is in a marathon or in a sprint. You need
Yeah.
to. Some companies are in a marathon. Some companies are in a sprint, right?
Yeah.
So I think the company that you were in previously was very much a sprint.
We were sprinting, but we also realized that you cannot keep sprinting. People get burned out. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and actually, hear me add a little bit where we actually started as a part-time entrepreneur while having a full-time commitment. So in some way, this can be something a little bit more risk averse for some people as an approach, since you kind of still have your full-time gig. But unfortunately, to burst your bubble, work-life balance is not going to exist for a little bit. And yes, it is going to be a marathon, but I think the key learning here is, what is your capacity? How much can you tolerate? How much time do you give? Don't break yourself, but also know that you are taking on an additional initiative the majority will fail at. So unfortunately, this is something, if it is something that you decided to commit to, it's going to be a tough journey. But if you ended up doing something great, it will be, or if it failed, you will learn a lot from this experience. I mean, I have had hours that is till 2 or 3 a.m. every day for like a year straight. And that was the capacity I'm able to provide back then. May not be able to do it now, but understand your capacity and kind of work with that. I think work with that schedule will be kind of the more, I guess, the reality for me.
But do take care of yourself.
As a part-time entrepreneur.
Do take care of yourself. You are the most important person in your company, so make sure you're taking care of yourself, right? That's your health, your mental state, and whatever it is that you have in your personal life as well.
That's amazing. You guys, this 55 minutes has just gone flying by. I still have 1,000 questions to ask. Are we okay with questions from outside? Okay, I have one last one then for each of you. Again, we've got a lot of people online killing themselves this week to try and solve these amazing challenges that are genuinely right on top of people's agendas in our companies. So, what advice would you give them? It's from your lessons you've learned over the years and
This is an incredible opportunity, being able to access senior leaders that all want to champion something. So grasp the opportunity, work as hard as you can in this time that you have, meet as many people as you can, try and understand the problems that these people encounter in their day-to-day jobs. Don't expect there to be a quick result. Maybe there may be one, right? Maybe you'll land a POC that will stick in the next 2 months. Maybe it'll be more drawn out. Like for us, it took us a year before we actually, ultimately delivered, landed the POC. But it's an incredible opportunity. Cherish it, and come away with an expanded network, with new skills, with new friends. Yeah, that's my tip.
awesome, fantastic.
I think just don't think that this is your last and only chance. Like while you're doing it, you should enjoy it because this is the moment where you get to network with different people, try to learn from each other, and then try to get some learning experiences from it. Whether it's fruitful, it materialized or not, I always treat every single opportunity as the learning experience. You come out smarter, wiser, better, more equipped for future opportunities anyways. Yeah, so you should enjoy this and just treat it like a ride in an amusement park.
Awesome.
I think
Yeah.
those are both great tips to think about how you approach the competition. As as a ex-participant of Hack Asia, I may just give a bit of more, I guess, practical kind of tips here. One would be break down your problems. Think implementation and operations. Don't try to force everything into a giant idea that seems far away. Make sure that things that you're proposing is something that really addresses the problem. Maybe break down that key questions into different components and look at how you're approaching different components, making sure that they're actually impactful and implementable. Secondly, when you're presenting, slow down. Back then I see a lot of people really rushing their slide because they really want to present the most information to everybody, but that may not help you as much as you thought. Making sure your messaging is clear, making sure everybody understands what you're saying. I think that's very, very important as well.
You missed the most important thing, Peter, that I still remember to this day about your presentation, which was your amazing color scarf or shirt or whatever you had on. You wore a very dramatic one. It really stood out on the day, and you left an impression for sure.
Amazing.
But listen, it just leaves me to say a huge thank you to you guys for all that sharing. I think everybody here has learned an amazing amount in the last hour. And we're really indebted to you coming in, to sharing all of this great knowledge with people. From a Jardine's perspective, we value these partnerships. We value your innovativeness and your ability to operate differently than we operate, and bring that that innovation with us so that we can together make things better for all the customers and consumers we serve across Asia. So, leaves me to say thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom.